Looking for a smarter path to business ownership? New Majority Capital helps underrepresented entrepreneurs buy and grow existing small businesses through their Beta Accelerator. You'll get expert training and coaching to learn how to find, fund, and run a business of your own. Join their tight-knit community of 300 alumni. Follow at New Majority Capital on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Blue Sky to learn more. New Majority Capital. Own a business. Build a legacy. Shift the economy.
Think venture capital is only for MBAs? Think again. Today's most successful VC firms are hiring scientists and engineers who understand innovation from the inside out. The LinkedIn group, Venture Capital for Scientists and Engineers, delivers expert insights, job paths, and real stories of STEM professionals in investing. Join now and see how your experience becomes your edge.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Unpolished MBA podcast. I'm your host, Monique Mills. And as you guys know, my favorite parts of having this podcast is getting to talk to smart and interesting people who are building things and doing great things in the real world. And this season, our theme has been about rebuild mode. And so we've been looking at changes that people need to make and pivot and prune and re-architect how they live, how they work. And so today's guest sits right in that pocket. I would say Lisa McGuire actually calls herself a skilled translator, and she helps people understand their native language of identity first, and then teaches them how to communicate it effectively through marketing. Her zone of genius is designing a business around your DNA. So Lisa McGuire, welcome to the show.
Monique, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited for this conversation today.
Yeah, me too. Long anticipated, I would say. I'm going to jump right into some of the things that are like kind of running themes in the content that you share. And one of them is about how expertise is not an edge anymore. So, for example, let's say you got two providers, same credentials, right? Both shipping AI-boosted content, one wins, and then the other person is basically ghosted. Like, what made the difference? So what are your thoughts on sameness and visibility in this world right now?
Yes. So sameness is the recipe for disappearing. It really is. And the point about expertise is no longer enough. You know, it wasn't that long ago that if you think about how many people, when they go into business or as they're in business, they are in continuous learning, right? I'm going to go get another certification. I'm going to get this credential. And we collect those, we put them on our website. We introduce ourselves as certified fill in the blank. And I know because I've been there. I'm one of those people that collected certifications and degrees and all of those things to prove my value and expertise and worth to the world. But when AI started coming in, and you know, we've been using AI for decades. Think of autocorrect on your phone, right? But when the question came up, and this happened to me almost a year ago, I'm pretty frequently a poster on LinkedIn. And one of my colleagues reached out and said, "Hey, Lisa, I want to ask you, your content's really good. Are you really writing those posts or is it AI?" And at first, Monique, I was offended because these are my ideas. This is, you know, I find that I'm a pretty experienced writer. I'm not the best writer by any means. There's lots of room for improvement. But the fact that he was asking if it was AI made me take a step back and ask, I wonder if other people are thinking that.
Mm-hmm.
And if other people are thinking that, am I thinking that back? So if it's this collective group of people all wondering if the content you're posting, if what you're saying is really you, or is it something that you copied and pasted from somewhere else? This is what has led to what we call the trust recession right now. So this is why expertise is no longer enough, that we have to bring some other things to the table.
Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
If you're leading a manufacturing business between $20 million to $200 million in revenue, listen up. Source to Scale, powered by TPM Focus, helps manufacturing companies like you find the cash hiding in their own operations. We'll dig into your supply chain and procurement strategy to identify cash flow opportunities fast. This isn't about cutting people or slashing budgets, it's about unlocking what's already there. Want to free up capital to stabilize and fuel innovation? Visit tpmfocus.com/source to scale and let's talk. Source to Scale, because cash is oxygen and you need room to breathe.
Well, I guess let me say this. I'm trying to wrap my brain around how folks are using AI. Okay. So some folks are definitely copy and pasting, or they outsource all of their content and they have ghostwriters. Like, it's not them writing at all.
Sure.
But then others may use AI to kind of perfect, in a way, their thoughts and how they're thinking about something. Is there a way to tell the difference?
So first, I want to go on record as saying I don't think AI is bad. AI is a tool. But when you use AI to generate your ideas versus taking your ideas and polishing them, taking your ideas and maximizing them, taking your ideas and connecting them to things that you haven't thought before, that's where we start moving into the edge of, okay, they knew this information, but now is this new idea coming in from something they actually have experience with? So that is where I would challenge people to ask, okay, you have this information. Where have you used it? How have you seen results with it? Maybe you haven't used it. Maybe this is prevailing wisdom. Why do you think it should be different, and what leads you to that? So I would be curious for people to really take a step back. And when you hear the information, where is that coming from? Did it come from a piece of content somewhere, or how did that person apply it?
So sometimes in people's content, it's easy to see kind of like a borrowed voice, you know?
Yeah.
So where do you spot that borrowed voice, quote unquote, most often?
Right. Well, if you look at the phraseology, if it's not necessarily like they would speak, or if it's something that looks like it came out of an encyclopedia or, directly copied off, like if you see the same phraseology, and, one thing that I kind of don't like about this new content generated by AI is I used to use emojis in my content. Well, now I don't use emojis at all because I don't want people to think, oh, she just lifted that off of something from Chat GPT.
Right.
I kind of like those emojis, right?
Yeah.
But now I don't. And, I also want to say I do use AI. I use AI as my personal assistant. I use AI to take information and say, let's derive and analyze what was what was the prevailing idea from this? I use AI to say, these are the three things I want to say. What is a way that I might be able to say them in a way that my audience will understand? So I don't want to demonize AI at all. It would be as ridiculous, Monique, as saying, going back to how many ever years ago when the internet first surfaced, of us saying the internet is bad. Now, there's probably an argument for that. But like for us to say the internet is bad, or, automation is bad, or manufacturing is bad, like there is redeeming value and quality in it. But right now, I think we're just in this change management age where people are going to have to look at how they operate in a different way. And change is hard.
Oh, for sure. And I do remember people saying that computers were bad. And then especially the internet and buying things online. Yeah, I do remember those times. Those times. But look how times have changed, right?
Oh, yes.
I do use AI as a assistant. I have so many things going on in my brain at once. Sometimes I just need something to help me sort it all out and prioritize. And so it's been very helpful to me in that way.
Absolutely.
So one of the things on your LinkedIn profile that you kind of frame as it's part of your brand, where you say you bring humanity back to business.
Hmm.
And you're a business energetics consultant. Can you explain what that means?
Sure. One thing I find in business, whether it's networking or whether it's having a sales call or just, trying to get business done, I think many times we are so focused on the outcome, whether it be, let's deliver this project, let's land this deal, let's close the sale so I can get a check, right? Like when it's focused on that, very transactional, or even showing up in a networking event. Who can I find in this room to be my next client, right? Very transactional. How do we feel on the other side of that, right? So if you're the person who is receiving that information, you could feel manipulated. You could feel, is this person really acting in my best interest? Is this something that we're doing a little dance where I'm wearing a mask and you're wearing a mask and you're supposed to say this and I'm supposed to say this next, right? It's exhausting. It's
Totally.
it's exhausting, isn't it?
Mhm.
But what if we could understand that it is not B to B, business to business. It is H to H. It is human to human. And the person who is making the purchasing decision or the buying decision or the person who is presenting the solution, at the end of the day, we're all people. And when we can find a way to connect with the other person's humanity, what it does is it gives us permission to drop the mask long enough. And then we have this space in between us where the wall comes down. When that wall comes down, then we can have a real conversation. So maybe, let's say someone is coming to me and they're trying to sell a service that I may have a need for. And if I'm not comfortable with making the decision, or I don't want to say no, or let's say the timing is not right in my business, I might say something of, I need to check with a partner. I need to check with a colleague. I need to check with somebody. I've got to wait back until I hear from this person, right? Rather than just saying, I'm not really comfortable right now doing this. I don't think I have enough information. I need some time to pause on this before I can really reflect and see how it fits in everything else. Like, why can't we just tell the truth? Why can't we be human? And on the other side, we may not feel safe enough to say that because the person on the other side of the conversation we know is going to come back with another reason why. It's almost like we feel like we would be attacked. So my whole thing on this bringing humanity back to business, could we allow people to show up as a human without coming in and making them feel like they're going to be attacked on the next part of the conversation? That's what I'm really looking at. And when you do that, it builds trust. And when you build trust, it builds business. And so I'm just thinking how wonderful the world would be and how much more exciting and dynamic business could be and deals could get done if we could drop that performance.
I have been becoming more aware of certain personality types, I would just say, that are more transactional. And some people identify that in themselves and they prefer it. So, and then you have others that want to be more relational and, it's very clear and they're comfortable with that as well. The problem I see is when those two forces come together. And though business-wise, they could do some great things together, but the person who's more relationship-driven feels manipulated, all those other things that you mentioned. Manipulated, it feels very shallow. And the transactional person is just like, get your feelings out of this, X, Y, Z, let's do this. And it's just hard. How do you even gauge people's energies in that way? Because most people aren't really aware until things move along and they feel slighted. They feel slighted, disrespected, whatever. And it's like, no, that person wasn't trying to disrespect you. They're just transactional.
Yes. And I think, if we could take a step back and look at the science of how decisions are made, of how really, when you say the word emotion, the people who are transactional are thinking, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to hold anybody's hand. I'm sorry you had a bad experience in the last, but I've got to get this deal moving, right? But if we look at the science of how we communicate and how we make decisions, that we need to be presented with the facts. How does the product or service you have, how does it benefit me, right? Not just what are the features, but how will it benefit me? How will it make my life better? So I've got all this information. And when I put it through my mind filter, Monique, then I'm checking the boxes. Does it make good financial decisions? Does it fit into the timing? Will it work with my team? Will it solve the problem I need to solve for my customers? So we check that box, but we don't make the buying decision, or we don't make the decision to move forward until it connects with an emotion. Are we struggling? This is why, like, when I help people with marketing and we're writing copy, you want to call out the feeling that your client is experiencing. Are they struggling? Are they frustrated? Are they confused? Are they overwhelmed? When you use those emotional words, that pulls them in. It makes them feel seen and heard. And it's when we make the decision that we are really asking ourselves, does this decision feel right? So those people who are transactional, I would challenge them to look at the science behind how decisions are made. And a decision is rarely made without the person on the other end of the decision feeling good about the decision.
Your statement about why can't we just tell the truth?
Yes. How about that?
Yeah, like simple. And there are so many people, and I would say children learn this very early. And the answer to that is because I might not get what I want.
Yes. Yeah. Monique, this is the third time this week this idea has just kind of dropped in. What if we go back to, I think there's a book or a cause or something, everything you ever needed to know you learned in kindergarten, right? Tell the truth. Imagine. But yes, then we get into the ego part. We get into the idea of what does it mean to be successful? I have to get what I want. And then we get into the other complexities of being a human.
Yep. And it should be human first. Should be human first.
Well, I like to operate that way.
Yeah.
I think it makes more space.
So in your work, you help people kind of translate their, I would say, translator of identity into marketing, right? And so walk us through your flow. Can you explain that more?
Yeah, absolutely. So this all started when I've been in business for 8 years, and I'm a marketing strategist is where I was starting. I do a lot of messaging strategy as well. So I started seeing a pattern in the people that would show up on my discovery calls, a lot of professional service providers, consultants, coaches, creatives, and they would talk about, they wanted to have some marketing. So one of the questions I would ask them, what makes you different from others in the industry? Well, I got answers like, I have great customer service. Right.
Okay.
That's a given. Like, shouldn't we all have great customer service, or my clients love me, or whatever it was? And so that's when I realized that many service providers struggle with insignificance and obscurity. They either don't know the value they bring, or what they do and who they are is so hidden, they don't know how to show up. And that's when I developed a framework that I use, Monique, called The Difference Is You. I then help people work through this process. I help them know who they are, not who the world told them to be, but who they really are, like who they are showing up as, how other people see them, because we don't see ourselves the way other people see us. So I help them know who they are. The second part, I help them know where to show up, where are their people, what are their offers, how to figure out how to connect those two, and then what to say when they do. So helping people know who they are, how to show up, and what to say when they do is a way to be able to connect with your clients. But the big part I found that was so transformational as I started working through this process was the who you are. And this is where I have started to identify people who are what I call successfully stuck. All right? Successfully stuck is when you've done all the right things, but you have this gnawing inside of you that there's something more, or it's not enough. And now how do I get out of it? So that's some of the identity work that I do. And I do pull in a system called human design that really gets to the core of who we are.
Do you find that when people work with you, it can sometimes dwarf into a therapeutic session for them?
Here's what I will say. I am not a medical professional. I am not a therapist. I am a person that is a safe space they can come to that allows them to surface what they reflect of what they believe about themselves. But Monique, what I really act as is I act as a mirror. Now, some people might say that is therapeutic. I would say most of my clients would say it is absolutely transformational, because what they find is often they've been doing something that was good enough, that helped them survive, that perhaps made them a really good living. But there's a couple of critical periods that we hit. One is between the age of 35 to early 40s, which I call the big crumble. And then there's another point that is hit somewhere between age 50 and 60, where people are looking at, okay, where did my life matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So therapy, I'll let the person define that themselves, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm helping people see who they really are, and I'm a mirror to shine it back to them.
And the difference is you, that signature lab that you do. What kind of tangible assets do clients leave with?
Oh, so many. So first is a very clear picture of your brand. And when I say brand, I'm not talking about logos and colors, although that is something that can fall out of this work, can result of this work after we finish this lab. But it's really an understanding of who you are, the way you work with clients, like what type of containers, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's some type of group program, is it a service, is it a VIP day? So understanding that, understanding how you best make decisions, understanding the role you play in there, being able to identify your ideal client and have the exact language you need to call them in, knowing where your clients show up. Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on Instagram? Are they at your local chamber? Knowing how to find them as far as networking or building strategic referral partnerships, the offers we have, the language you use, and how to put it in your content, show up as a podcast guest, your one-pagers, all of those, that all can fit in that container.
I attended one of your webinars, which, by the way, I would encourage anyone, anytime you see Lisa post on her LinkedIn about a free webinar, please attend. But I took it's like an online quiz that is kind of like a blueprint, I would say. So describe what that is, and we're also going to share the link to the quiz as well.
All right, that's great. So it's a system that I discovered several years ago, Monique, and it is called human design. Now, I do want to say, if you look on the internet, you'll find a lot about human design, and people can go to my chart or to my website and download their chart. And a lot of times people will do that. And then the first thing they do, they'll look at it and say, I don't know what this means. And they'll go to ChatGPT and put it in, and then they get the information. And they think, oh, that's nice. Yeah, that does sound like me. And they move on, right?
Mhm.
But what this is the blueprint of how you are naturally designed to operate, how you're naturally designed to make decisions, where you end up in what I want to say, maybe telling yourself stories about yourself that aren't necessarily true, right? So where the shoulds, the coulds, the woulds come in. So just overall, it is the blueprint of how you're naturally designed to operate.
So a few of the things that I had to enter, and if you decide to go do the chart, you go to lisamcguire.com, and then right at the top, it says get your free chart. But also, we'll give you the direct link without even clicking on that. But one of the things it asks for is, of course, your name, but then your birthday and the hour, minute, and place of birth. So why does it ask those specific things?
I'm so glad you asked this, Monique, because people will say, that's all I need. Like, I don't have to take a test. So let me talk about why that is important. So human design and this body graph is a combination of ancient wisdom, 3 different types of ancient wisdom, and modern science. So it is combining what we know through the connection of the Chinese I Ching to our DNA. So it does have a genetic basis to it. It's also the foundation on which many personality tests are built. So if you think about the Enneagram, you take the core of the Enneagram is in your human design chart. But the reason you have to take a test is you take a test because the stories you telling yourself about who you are will determine which of the 9 types on the Enneagram chart that you end up appearing as. The reason why it's asking for date, time, and place of birth is from the quantum physics that comes in. So at the moment you are born, there are particles called neutrinos that are filtering through the atmosphere. Neutrinos, the 2015 Nobel Peace Prize was awarded to 2 physicists for discovering neutrinos are the smallest subatomic particles of mass. And when you are born, those particles of mass imprint on your body, and that determines the time of how it's going to impact your chart. So it sounds a little out there. And when I first heard about it, I thought, all right, this doesn't, what's going on here? But when you connect it to the genetics, when you connect it to the atmospheric particles that are flying through, this is astronomy. It is not astrology. It is science-based. When you look at all of that, but even more, when you look at the results, Monique, I have yet, and I've been doing this for a while. I've been going through my own human design process for about the last 4 years and studying it for business for 3 years. I'm still in that training. I have yet to find a person that does not walk away and say, that feels so much like me, and I didn't even realize it.
Yep. That's how it was when I got my results as well. I'm glad you said something. A lot of people, when we say quiz, they're thinking, oh gosh, it's one of those personality tests or, whatever. And that's not it at all. Literally your name, date of birth, and hour and minute and place of birth. And so, Lisa, you say you work with a lot of service professionals and people that are trying to get that, their brand in alignment with how they work and who they want to work with and all that. What's the top advice that you typically give?
Probably the prevailing thing is people are bought into the idea that hustle and grind and just work harder and try to do more than anybody else is going to be what wins. But what I have found is when you understand how you are created to work, how you are designed to work, and you can find that alignment, then that's when flow happens. That's when things are easy. That's when you don't have to be on the road to burnout, right? I talk about the zone of genius a lot, which comes from Dr. Gay Hendricks. He wrote the book, The Big Leap. But when you are in your zone of genius, you lose track of time when you work. And so I want to encourage people, and this is one thing I do with the human design information. As I said, a lot of people will get it and put it into ChatGPT and say, oh, that's nice. What do I do with it? I help people how to take that language and the information and we assimilate it, we analyze it, and we integrate it into how you design your business, how you show up to get either a clarity map or clarity path or a executive blueprint that actually acts as a desk side operating system. When you have to make a decision about what to do in your business, you can just pull that out and it will tell you so much about yourself that a lot of times we're so busy we forget.
Yep. You second guess yourself a lot. But once you kind of get with the flow of like your natural energy, I guess I would say that your natural authenticity, it makes things easier. I don't know how to explain it, but it does.
It really does. As you said, authenticity is really, it is an energy word, Monique. And so when you see that, here's what I find. Once people have gone through this process and I help them design their business around them and let them see this is what makes sense for you, this is how to get into flow, then I see confidence build. I see courage appear. I see imposter syndrome just basically vanish because they walk out of that process knowing this is who I am. This is what I'm created to do. And I don't have to worry about trying to prove myself. This is what I was here for. And I will say, as the world around us changes, as the people around us changes, as we open up our email and have another breaking news headline that may bring fear into us, then it impacts us. And so it's an ongoing process.
I would encourage everyone to take a listen to Lisa's podcast as well. It's called Your Passion, Purpose, and Personal Brand Podcast. And you've been having episodes, since 2021 or so?
Yes, I think I just recorded, I think we're approaching episode 200. So every Tuesday for the last 200 or so weeks, we've had an episode. I do solo episodes where, sometimes I'll just get something that I see, a trend I see in the world or an idea someone has that I want to encourage people and inspire people and to empower them to maybe think differently. Or I bring on people who really are telling stories of, I had this life, I had this aha moment, I saw an injustice, and I decided to go do something about it. So really love giving those people the microphone to encourage other people that you don't have to settle and you don't have to stay stuck where you are.
Well, Lisa, what is the best way for folks who want to get in touch with you and learn more about how to work with you?
Yes, I would say you can check out my website, lisamcguire.com. I'm also on LinkedIn pretty much 3 to 5 days a week. You can always contact me there. And you can email me, lisa@lisamcguire.com.
All right. Thank you so much, Lisa, for joining today and sharing.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Monique. And I invite anyone who has further questions, just reach out and I'll see what I can do to help move you along.
Thank you for listening to the Unpolished MBA podcast. To hear more episodes or to request to become a guest, please visit unpolishedmba.com.
Are you running a business that's doing okay, but you know it could be doing better with the right strategy behind it? At TPM Focus, we help organizations get unstuck. Whether you're launching something new, navigating disruption, or aligning your operations with your financial goals, we bring clarity and, most importantly, we execute. If you're tired of random acts and ready to get intentional about cash flow and growth, visit tpmfocus.com.